invite the independent expert on human rights and international solidarity to make an introductory statement. Ms. Bailliet, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies. It is truly an honor for me to present my second thematic report to the UN General Assembly titled Corporations and International Solidarity. So we currently face a choice as an international community. Do we pursue a fragmented transactional world disorder based on power? Or do we embrace a reflective shift towards a 21st century multilateralism to be based on international solidarity, built on networks between states, international organizations, corporations, civil society groups, academics, and faith institutions? Solidarity is the positive corollary to non-discrimination. It is the act or expression of inclusion of all persons who are denied the enjoyment of human rights based on their collective identity, based on their race, religion, gender. It's about including everyone in the right to enjoy rights. So the recession of democracy, growing inequality, and increased polarization within and between societies around the world underscores the urgency of corporate acceptance of their shared role and responsibility to ameliorate global challenges. At present, companies increasingly determine our access to food, our access to housing, to water, and energy. And they impact our ability to secure our territories, control cyberspace, and they influence our opinions and culture, as well as setting labor practices. Today, the market value of the world's largest companies exceeds the GDP of most countries. Corporations have complex formal and informal arrangements with suppliers, subcontractors, distributors, customers, and end users that complicate accountability. So corporations may seek to minimize damage to the reputation, but they may also seek to uphold societal trust and minimize disruption to activities due to litigation or boycotts on account of violations, such as the use of child labor, damage to the environment, or breach of data privacy laws. I believe that it's essential that states commit to ensuring that corporations implement solidarity policies and practices to respect human rights, to protect the environment, and to ensure sustainable peace and development. Corporations can choose to produce sustainable goods and services. They can choose to guarantee fair employment, and they can choose to pay taxes to end intersectoral social exclusion and devastation to the environment. So the pressing concern is, what is the will of states to change the choices of these corporate leaders that seek to unsustainably extract natural resources, exploit workers, abuse tax havens, and enable crimes in war economies and human rights violations in peacetime? There really is great concern that civil society groups that pursue solidarity actions calling for corporate respect for human rights and protection of the environment, they're increasingly being targeted with strategic lawsuits to silence them, as well as red tagging, surveillance, and criminalization. So companies need to desist from this type of detrimental litigation. Moreover, as the marker of world disorder, we're seeing that trade unions are under attack. And the International Trade Union Confederation reports that there is a very real war against workers around the world, marked by the reduction of their access to justice, the reduction of their right to strike, the blocking of the right to legally register as a union, and violation of their rights to collective bargaining, as well as the infringement of their rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. This is the very foundation of democracy. So while we're concerned with the very real kinetic wars around the world, we have to pay attention to the war against trade unions and civil society. The ratification of the ILO Work in Fishing Convention is urgent. The protection of migrant fishers is particularly salient. There's concern that fishing seafarers may not report violations because they fear reprisals, intimidation, or a lack of trust in the reporting systems. Fishing and transport corporations should ensure that they conduct regular risk assessments and that they create trustworthy mechanisms for reporting. There's also a compelling need to address the labor rights of workers within the oil and gas sectors. States need to create effective access to justice mechanisms, including corporate accountability agencies. I suggest that we heed the Inter-American Court of Human Rights that issued an advisory opinion on the right to care. That reminds states that the duty to care for the vulnerable groups in society, including children, the elderly, and disabled people. And this includes protecting care workers, ensuring that their labor rights are guaranteed and they're protected from deportation or other threats. There is increased recognition that intersectional solidarity strategies can be effective, and we've noted that there's been a real success in the living wage solidarity movements that actually unite minorities with migrants and with women, and we need to look at this as an example of successful support of civil society. So a key challenge is for corporations to inform rights holders openly about the rights that may at risk when they have their operations, and to create concrete channels for right holders to provide input to the design of solidarity strategies to prevent or mitigate violations. So right holders often claim that human rights or environmental audit procedures are either invisible or they're not openly shared with them. So a corporation can appear to be a black box, and right holders may not know with whom they can communicate. As a good practice, it's notable that India has a business responsibility and sustainability reporting framework that requires the top 1,000 listed companies to disclose whether grievance mechanisms exist for environmental, social, or governance-related issues. And similarly, as a best practice, Zambia implements the World Bank's Millennium Challenge account, offering listed grievance process involving internal review, mediation, arbitration, and this is designed to address broader societal concerns. Now, we have a lot of concern that gender discrimination is not usually included in the human rights impact assessments, and so it's really important to remedy this exclusion. Gender perspectives should be included in due diligence legislation. And one positive example is Colombia, where the elite group of gender equity, it's run by the Ministry of Labor. It conducts training as well as preventive and responsive investigations, and it conducts visits to employers in different sectors to address gender discrimination. So companies need to take concrete actions to respond to the alarming breach of 7 of the 9 planetary boundaries, and indeed the Inter-American Court of Human Rights issued an advisory opinion calling for solidarity in protecting people from the effects of climate change and engage in preventive actions. Companies should include women and indigenous people on their boards and conciliation mechanisms, and they should ensure respect for the principle of free, prior, informed consent and enable community feedback mechanisms. The Inter-American Court of Human Rights recognized that states should prevent human rights violations by companies, including transnational companies with supply chains within their territories, calling for enacting due diligence laws that address human rights and environmental norms. The court has held that companies must carry out continuous human rights risk assessments, mitigate risk, and provide remedies. States can pursue solidarity economy systems based on cooperatives, associations, and social enterprises that would promote social inclusion and sustainability. And Mexico has these solidarity initiatives with internal development banks to provide credit to lower income communities. States and companies need to cooperate to combat corruption. And corporations that pursue anti-corruption due diligence on subcontractors, marketplace alliances, vendors, suppliers, this would be meeting the solidarity standard. They have to look at appointing independent human rights and environmental risk assessments and audits, and conducting heightened risk assessments in conflict situations that would address prevention and remedy obligations. We see a growing trend in litigation, and we see the use of the OECD national contact points in proceedings involving companies, including within home states. And these involve violations of workers' rights, environmental harm, and complicity in international crimes. I believe that corporations should pay a global minimum tax rate and contribute to a global solidarity fund to address environmental and human rights challenges related to corporate activity. They should cooperate with human rights institutions for prevention and response. And states need to show international solidarity by combating tax evasion by companies. Finally, I think business schools should include classes on human rights and sustainability to show that you can protect people and the environment and create a new generation of international solidarity corporate leadership. It's not the end of history. We're writing it now. Thank you.
Thank you, the independent expert on human rights and international solidarity. With that, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments to the speaker. As per past practice, I would ask the delegations to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Thank you for your kind cooperation. I will now give the floor